and welcome to Daily News Capsule. Today we'll go through the important news that have appeared in the newspaper of today. So the first news that is coming your way is with respect to Indian polity, and this is that Women's Only Court as a forum for alternate dispute resolution is being launched on a pilot basis. Now the Union government is set to launch an initiative, as this article tells, initiative under which women's only court will be set up at the village level as alternate dispute resolution forums for issues such as domestic violence, property rights, and to counter the patriarchal system. The scheme would be launched on a pilot basis, and 50 villages have been chosen, each in Assam and J&K, Jammu and Kashmir. It would be launched in these two, in Assam, in the state of Assam, and in the UT of J&K in August, and it would be extended in the rest of the country over a time frame of 6 months. Now this Nari Adalat of each village will have 7 to 9 members. Now this point is important with respect to the composition of the women's court, the Nari Adalat. It would be having 7 to 9 members, half of which would be elected members of the Gram Panchayat, while the other half would be coming from teachers, doctors, and social workers who would be nominated by the villagers themselves. The court will not only address individual cases, as these are the detailing of the workload that would be handled by them. The court will not only address individual cases of women and girls within the local community who require assistance or have grievance, but also raise awareness about government schemes and programs, and also spread awareness with respect to legal rights and entitlements of women. But the most important point is that Nari Adalat will not be having any legal status, meaning thereby, although the word Adalat or the term court is being used in its name, but in strict legal sense, it will not be considered as a court. The services provided will include alternative dispute resolution and grievance redressal, counseling, evidence-based decision-making, pressure group tactics, negotiation, mediation, and reconciliation with mutual consent for accessible and affordable justice. Now members would be known as, now the members of the Nari Adalat would be called as Nyay Sakhis, legal friends, and would be nominated or selected by the Gram Panchayat, as has been informed previously, while the head of the Nari Adalat would be called as Mukhya Nyay Sakhi, chief legal friend, and would be chosen among the Nyay Sakhis. Now the tenure of Mukhya Nyay Sakhi would be 6 months, after which a new one would be selected. So it would be on a rotational basis, you can say. The scheme would be run by the Ministry of Women and Child Development under the Sambal sub-scheme of Mission Shakti, which is dedicated to strengthening women's safety, security, and empowerment. And as to the implementation process will be done by collaborating with Ministry of Women and Child Development would be collaborating with Ministry of Panchayati Raj, Ministry of Rural Development, and common service centers which are operated through the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. So this news is important with respect to Indian polity component of the syllabus. Coming to the next analysis. Now this is a follow-up of the United States Supreme Court ban on race-based admission. In one of the previous videos, I had given a detailed analysis was included in that video as one of the newspaper reports in the newspaper. So this is a follow-up of that analysis. Now the Supreme Court, as has been informed to all of you previously, that the US Supreme Court on June 29th struck down race-conscious student admission policies at the University of North Carolina and Harvard. Now this was a 6-3 and 6-2. The justices voted 6-3 and 6-2 in favor of students for fair admissions. Now this was one of the parties in the court case. The case argued whether admission system used by Harvard colleges and University of North Carolina are lawful under Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Now, this much has been discussed in some detail in one of the previous videos as well. But let's come to the more important theoretical aspect of affirmative action. Now, what is meant by affirmative action? Please understand that it was President John F. Kennedy, and he became the first leader in the year 1961 when he linked the term affirmative action with racial equality. President Kennedy signed an executive order instructing the government contractors to take affirmative action to ensure that applicants are employed and that employees are treated during their employment without regard to their race, creed, color, or national origin. The policy was continued by President Richard Nixon when in 1969 he signed yet another executive order directing the US government to provide equal opportunity in federal employment to all persons, to prohibit discrimination in employment because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, handicap, or age, and to promote the full realization of equal employment opportunity through continuing affirmative program in each executive department and agency. And a landmark ruling has also been highlighted in this news article. A landmark ruling in the matter came in 1978 in the Regents of the University of California versus Beck case, where the Supreme Court ruled that schools could not use affirmative action to rectify historical racial discrimination, but they could weigh race as one of the many factors in the admission process. Now, what are the views of the June 29th judgment? This again has been highlighted, although in the small paragraph, but in one of the previous videos, some detailing has been provided to, so you can refer to that video as well. Now, what is meant by Equal Protection Clause and what is this 14th Amendment? The 14th Amendment of the American Constitution addresses citizenship issues and the rights of citizens. The Equal Protection Clause under 14th Amendment requires that the government to accord equality to all citizens and avoid denial of protection enjoyed by other people or demographics. Now, the Equal Protection Clause is considered crucial to the protection of civil rights as highlighted by the article. Please understand that this decision of the US Supreme Court with respect to the admission procedures in America would be having far-reaching consequences. And because this decision has come very recently, obviously the American government, the Biden administration, would be responding and taking appropriate measures to somehow work with this judgment, and at the same time to promote the idea of you can say racial equality in America. So as and when the new information comes into picture, as and when the new information pours in, it would be coming your way. Coming to the next article, now this is a bit important, a more pertinent with respect to international relations and geopolitics component of the syllabus, and this is related to China limiting exports of raw material, and that raw material is required, the raw material in question is required in the manufacturing of silicon chips. Given the fact that Indian government has outlined a policy, has given a thrust to the idea of chip manufacturing, but dependence of raw material on different countries around the world is there. So what would be the implications of this order of Chinese government to or regarding limiting of exports of raw material? This article deals with that. Now, very recently on July 3rd, the Chinese Ministry of Commerce announced that it would be implementing export controls on items related to gallium and germanium. Take a note of these two elements of the periodic table, gallium and germanium. It said that the controls are being imposed in order to safeguard national security interests. Now, the announcement led to a spike in the prices of essential raw material, with companies rushing to to secure their supplies, and these regulations would be coming into effect from 1st of August. Now, what is the background of this order passed by the Chinese government? The order, the background is provided in this paragraph under the this subheading. What is the geopolitical backdrop? In October 2022, the US Department of Commerce had implemented a series of export control measures to protect its national security and foreign policy interests. So please understand that Chinese action is in response to the October 2022 American action, where it also imposed export control measures, and the rationale given by the American government was that it was done to promote and to protect national security and foreign policy interest. The Chinese have retaliated in the same currency, and they have also imposed export controls. They have also imposed export controls with respect to gallium and germanium, and this is widely seen as a response to the American, you can say, actions. Now, what are the specifics of this export control order of the Chinese government? This is provided in this paragraph, that the Chinese Ministry of Commerce, in a bid to restrict the export of the two raw materials, ordered that the export operators would now have to acquire a specific license for their operations. The primary contention lies with the application process that requires operators to list the importers, end users, and end use. They would also have to produce export contracts in original. Exporting without permission would constitute a violation, calling for administrative penalties, and it would also be deemed as a crime with the exporter being held criminally responsible. Now, the specifics are very much in line with the Chinese policy of you can say, if I can use the term, tit for tat, where the American government has launched this export control order, and in response to that, the Chinese government came out with its own set of export control order. Why it is a matter of concern, this is addressed in this paragraph, in these 2-3 paragraphs under the subheading, why it is a matter of concern. Because gallium is used to make gallium arsenide, which forms the core substance of semiconductors. They are used to manufacture semiconductor wafers utilized in integrated circuits, mobiles, and satellite communications, that is in the chipset, LED displays, etc. Meaning there were virtually each and everything which is having a silicon chip in it would be having gallium within it. And if the export of gallium and germanium is being controlled by the export control order of China, obviously it would be having global ramifications. The same story goes with respect to germanium as well. And its utility in the manufacturing of the silicon chips. Now, how the countries have responded? Countries have responded differently. America has said that it is very much opposed to the idea of export control order of the Chinese government, but at the same time, the other countries have started to look for other suppliers of these inputs, these elements, gallium and these raw material, gallium and germanium, so that their supply chain is not disrupted. Now, what will be the impact on India? Impact on India is deliberated upon in this concluding section of the article. And it is the contribution is coming from, in this regard, from Observer Research Foundation, one of the fellows of Observer Research Foundation, where the scholar says that the Chinese export control are expected to have short-term impact on India and its industries due to the disruption in the immediate supply chain, meaning thereby short-term impact would be there, not long-term impact. He states that increased prices resulting from export control order would affect the cost and availability of chips, potentially impacting India's chip making plans. However, the long-term consequences of India's chip making plans and industries will depend on several factors. Meaning thereby immediate impact would be there, but long-term impact would be there, but they would depend on several factors. and the scholar lists a set of factors that would be having an impact on the in the long term. For example, whether India is able to find an alternative supply source. That would be a point to be seen. If India is able to find an alternate source of supply of these essential elements, then obviously long-term impact of Chinese export control order to a large extent would be mitigated. Likewise, domestic semiconductor production capabilities and strategic partnership like the India-US initiative on critical and emerging technologies, this also would be very much important in mitigating the fallouts of this Chinese export control order. Apart from this, the article quotes Rajiv Mitra, who is a partner in the consulting firm Deloitte, and according to Rajiv Mitra, the scenario provides an opportunity for India, which is totally import dependent for gallium and germanium. He says that India should see this particular situation as an aapta mein avsar and try to work around it. And he says that pointing to the presence of two critical minerals as a byproduct in the processing of zinc and alumina, meaning thereby these two, gallium and germanium, could be obtained by by you can say upgrading the processing of zinc and alumina, and because these gallium and germanium are the byproducts of the processing process. The entire processing system, the byproduct of that is gallium and germanium. Mr. Mitra argues that the effort should be made to focus on waste recovery from zinc and alumina production. Additionally, moving attention towards available substitutes as indium and silicon could also be considered. So this is all about the export control order of the Chinese government with respect to the export of gallium and germanium. What are the reasons for such export control order? What are the responses of different countries? What is the utility of gallium and germanium, and how India would be impacted in the short run as well as in the long run. This piece of information is important for economy as well as international relations uh, portions of the syllabus. Moving forward to the next piece of information, and this is related to India-Russia trade payment. Again, because of the Russia-Ukraine crisis, Russia has been shut off, has been denied access to Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, in the short form called as SWIFT system, and therefore is not able to access the facilities provided by this telecommunication system, and therefore its trade is being impacted. But the dependence of India on Russian oil has been increasing, and as of now, Russia is the largest supplier of crude oil to India. To a large extent, dependence on the West and the West Asian suppliers, Western countries, African countries, etc., have gone down, and dependence on Russian oil has increased. But a problem is coming that how to provide the payment, how to make the payments with respect to the oil purchases that is made by the Indian refiners. So this article is about that, and what is being discussed over here, that what can be the ways in which dependence on American dollar for settlement of the accounts can be reduced. So important article, you can go through the content of this article, a bit lengthy one, but at the same time the important points have been highlighted and that is in front of you. Moving on to the next news, and this is with respect to cluster munitions. In one of the previous videos I had mentioned about this, that what is cluster munitions, and the analysis in this regard. But although that was a bit brief, a detailed analysis is provided over here, and the news is in the backdrop of the fact that the American government has announced an $800 million security assistance package to Ukraine, and the most important component of that military aid package is the supply of cluster munitions. Now, apart from cluster munitions, the American government is providing howitzers, Patriot air defense system, high mobility artillery rocket system (HIMARS), and this is for the first time that dual purpose improved conventional munitions, or DPICM, or which are commonly referred to as cluster munitions, are being provided to the Ukrainians. But at the same time, it should be noted that cluster munitions are banned by a global convention which is having 111 state parties. Now, what is a cluster munition? Cluster munition is a weapon that disperses or releases explosive sub-munitions, small unguided explosives or bomblets that are designed to explode prior to, on, or after impact, according to the Global Convention on Cluster Munitions. Now, these two paragraphs give detail about this convention on cluster munition, which was adopted in Dublin in the year 2008. It is as a binding international law, and it became a binding international law on 1st of August 2010. And there are 111 state parties and 12 signatories, while 74 countries are not party to it. So, and these obviously the parties which are not included in this convention are USA, Russia, China. India is also not there. Israel, Pakistan, and Ukraine, and most of the NATO countries. Then these two paragraphs which have been highlighted, these are the responses of Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor of America, where he's trying to defend the decision of providing cluster munitions to the Ukrainians. And one of the one of the rationale which he is saying that he's giving is that Russia is also using such munition against the Ukrainians. So it is obvious that the Ukrainians should also be given such ammunition. So this information is related to international relations, geopolitics, as well as science and tech. So these were all the news of important news from today's newspaper. I'll see you in the next session. Thank you very much.